The United States has abandoned Ukraine. Support for Europe and Ukraine is now essential. Russia will seek to annex Ukraine. They aim to recreate the glory of the Soviet Union. This poses a significant threat. What is needed is a wounded bear, not a fierce one. A weakened Russia is preferable. Recently, the US and Ukraine signed a mineral agreement emphasizing Ukraine's voluntary abandonment of nuclear weapons in 1994. Why the sudden emphasis on voluntary? This is a clever way for the US to shift blame. The US had promised in the Budapest Memorandum to protect Ukraine. If Ukraine gave up its nuclear arms, protection would be provided. Now that Ukraine has voluntarily given up, the US can claim it is not their fault. It was Ukraine's choice to forego protection. Thus, their current plight is not the US's responsibility. Many may be unaware. But in 2013, the US promised Ukraine security assurances if threatened by nuclear aggression. This was a second promise of nuclear protection. Ukraine, once the third largest nuclear power, had an arsenal of over 2,000 warheads. This meant Ukraine could potentially devastate the Northern Hemisphere. It had more nuclear weapons than the UK and France combined. However, the key to those weapons remained with Russia. Nuclear weaponry is also extremely costly. For instance, French President Macron revealed that France maintains only 300 warheads. They invest billions annually in upkeep. With many warheads nearing expiration, France must upgrade its arsenal at a significant cost. Russia, on the other hand, spends hundreds of billions to maintain its nuclear stockpile. Given Ukraine's strained relations with Russia, giving up nuclear arms seems sensible. By doing so, Ukraine could save substantial resources and gain US protection. So why not? With the US now withdrawing support, it suggests that when Russia moves to annex Ukraine, the US may simply stand by. Thus, supporting Ukraine is essential. Why? Because Ukraine has historically provided significant assistance. Moreover, it is a crucial pawn in countering Russia. Many may not know. The first aircraft carrier, Liaoning, was acquired from Ukraine. Additionally, Ukraine supplied several critical vessels and technologies. In terms of aircraft, Ukraine provided prototypes that aided China in producing its carrier-based jets. Ukraine also contributed significantly in engine technology. These were technologies Russia refused to share. Why did Ukraine assist? Because Ukraine does not share a border with China. Moreover, Ukraine remains wary of Russia. Thus, their military cooperation is less concerning. Conversely, assisting Ukraine benefits future interests. Supporting Ukraine offers multiple advantages. First, it prevents Russia from expanding its influence. Russia has never been a benign neighbor. Historically, the greatest threats to China have come from the north. For instance, Russia has occupied significant territories. In the past, millions of square kilometers were lost to Russia. Even in modern times, Russia has sought to join NATO multiple times. If Russia were to join NATO, China's northern territories would be at risk. History shows that large neighbors rarely coexist peacefully. Conflicts of interest are inevitable. Once Russia consumes Ukraine, its power will significantly increase. Pressure on the northeastern and northwestern borders will rise. Powerful neighbors often mean more trouble. Now they can cooperate with Russia. This is purely due to the immense pressure from the US. He has always warned everyone to be cautious of Russia. Because Russia is not skilled like Liao and Jin. They are not adept. He needs to avoid a repeat of the Song dynasty tragedy. The northern Song allied with Jin to destroy Liao. As a result, Jin turned around and destroyed the northern Song. The southern Song allied with Eurasia to defeat Jin. Then, decades later, Mongolia destroyed the southern Song. The lessons of history teach not to invite wolves into the house. If Russia truly invades Ukraine, its strength will inevitably increase. It will exert greater pressure on its neighbors. Russia's resource reserves account for 20% of the world. Coupled with Ukraine's fertile land, industrial foundation, and population, its strength will be significantly enhanced. A new superpower will emerge in the north. Does this align with their interests? Of course not. Second, Ukraine is a hub of Eurasia. It is key to the Belt and Road Initiative. Ukraine is strategically located connecting Eurasia. It is an important pivot point for the westward extension of the Belt and Road. At the same time, Ukraine is the heart of Europe. If Ukraine falls completely under Russian control, the land route from the east to Europe will be severely restricted. Don't forget, the East has significant investments in Ukraine. In 2011, they signed a memorandum to establish a China-Ukraine agricultural cooperation zone. In June 2013, Xinjiang Production and Construction Corps signed an agreement to lease 3 million square meters in Ukraine. This is about 30,000 square kilometers. Investment exceeded $2.6 billion. This is their largest overseas agricultural investment. Ukraine has also become their largest overseas farm. In December 2017, they plan to invest about $10 billion in Ukraine's agriculture. By 2019, they surpassed India, becoming Ukraine's largest agricultural importer. The total amount is $19.5 billion. If Ukraine is annexed, these strategic investments will face huge risks. Can they just watch? Can they let their years of hard work go to waste? Moreover, just recently, they signed an important agreement for agricultural exports with Ukraine. This actually implies support for Ukraine. Third, they must seize the historical opportunity of U.S. strategic contraction. The U.S. abandonment of Ukraine is part of its strategic retreat. Look at the recent remarks from the U.S. leader, and you'll understand. He wants to take Greenland. He wants to annex Canada and Mexico. He wants to control the Panama Canal. What lies behind this? It's a result of the decline of U.S. hegemony. They can no longer maintain a military presence globally. They can only retreat back to North America. This is a rare historical opportunity. When the U.S. abandons Europe, who can fill this opportunity? The EU is preoccupied. Russia is watching closely. But they not only have the capability, they are also the most suitable target for strategic outreach in Europe. Ukraine is more suited to ally with them, rather than Russia. Therefore, supporting Ukraine is seizing this historical opportunity. Once they expand their influence in Europe, they will be one step closer to global unity. Moreover, in February, they already indicated. Some countries may not know that they established a bilateral strategic partnership with Ukraine in 2011. The implications of this are clear. They have been adjusting their strategy towards Ukraine. After the new leader took office, the world's veil has been completely lifted. The US is no longer willing to maintain the post-war international system. They are pursuing America first. The US abandonment of Ukraine also means abandoning Europe. Russia's sphere of influence will further expand. So in the foreseeable future, the world will no longer be dominated by the US, China, the US, and Russia will shape a new balance within their respective spheres of influence. Like in the historical Three Kingdoms era, heroes will emerge alongside the expansion of dynasties. Ukraine is an important strategic point for them in Europe. They must protect Ukraine. Those who plan for the long term are prepared for the immediate. Those who plan for the larger picture are prepared for a region. If Emperor Wu of Han did not conquer the western regions, there would be no present-day territory. If they do not prepare well, there will be no future. Finally, if you like this video, please like and follow. Then you can watch the next update first.